While there have been many presidential assassinations and shootings since the 1960s, the attempted assassination on President Ronald Reagan in 1981 was one of the first tragic events, resulting in legislation attempting to instill much-needed gun controls. As an outcome of the attack, the Clinton administration proposed the Brady Act in 1993, which advocated for more thorough background checks to keep guns out of the hands of criminals. Due to the bipartisan political climate on gun control in the late 1990s, the Brady Act brought about little effective change, which is cited as a cause for the shooting at Columbine High School. The United States bipartisan government in the 1990s prevented Congress from making efficient strides in lowering the amount of gun violence. The lack of effort by Congress to collaborate on reforming gun laws before tragedy is almost as tragic as the shootings. The attempted assassination on Ronald Reagan triggered discussion and legislation that enhanced gun controls. However, the Brady Act and other subsequent efforts proved woefully inadequate due primarily to partisan politics involving gun control. Before the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan in 1981, there was the Gun Control Act of 1968. The act came to be after Martin Luther King Jr., a prominent civil rights leader, was assassinated on August 4, 1968. The act banned cheap and smaller handguns dubbed Saturday Night Specials from being imported to the United States. It also prevented felons and other dangerous people from owning a gun, and required specific guns to be registered with the United States.
The Gun Control Act of 1968, just passed by the Congress and signed into law by the President, grants possessors of certain types of firearms 30 days of grace in order to register these weapons. Now, these weapons, they include the machine guns or any similar type weapon constructed from a machine gun. It includes shotguns having barrel or barrels of less than 18 inches in length.
However, the Gun Control Act of 1968 was not efficient in stopping criminals from accessing guns. The act banned only imported handguns, not ones made in the United States. Thus, Americans started manufacturing domestic Saturday Night Specials and selling them. This made guns accessible for people similar to Jack Hinckley, the man who attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan in 1981. Hinckley had purchased a Saturday Night Special on October 13, 1981, before the incident. He bought the gun from Rocky's pawn shop, who sold the .22 caliber pistols for only $47. When the owner of the pawn shop was asked to recall the exchange between him and Hinckley, he couldn't remember anything odd about the situation. Because of Hinckley's ability to purchase a gun so easily, he was able to paralyze James Brady, a White House correspondent, and injure President Reagan. During the attack, one bullet had punctured Reagan's lung, another lodged in Brady's brain, causing him to be paralyzed for the rest of his life. After this tragic event, the subject of gun control was starting to gain national attention. In response to Hinckley's attempt on President Reagan's life, many prominent political leaders and regular people became fixated on reforming gun control. President Clinton made reforming gun control and implementing the Brady Law large parts of his campaign. The Brady Law, supported by Reagan as well, was a gun control act to help implement federal background checks and restrict purchases of guns. Under the Brady Law, every time someone went to purchase a gun, a 5-day background check by federal officials was mandatory. In addition, the number of guns one could buy at a time was very limited to prevent reselling of the weapons illegally. President Bill Clinton was a huge advocate of this act and made numerous speeches to persuade Congress to pass it.
Seen in 10 years, and he pulled out that old form from the 1968 Act and said, "Have you ever been convicted of a crime? Have you ever been in a mental hospital?" The guy said, no, and put the form back in the drawer, and 12 hours later, 6 people were dead, and my friend is not over it to this day. Don't tell me this bill will not make a difference. That is not true. It is not true.
From Clinton's first year in office in 1993 to his last in 2001, he fought to implement further gun control. Clinton asked Congress for $280 million in new spending to reform existing gun laws and hire more employees for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. The Morton Grove Ordinance, an ordinance to ban guns in an urban town in Illinois, finally received national attention due to the conversation of gun control. The ordinance prohibited gun sales within the village, as well as a private possession on handguns. As a response, over 500 communities have developed an ordinance against gun control to lower their crime rates. Another large ambassador for stronger gun control was Sarah Brady, wife of James Brady. After James was paralyzed, Sarah became invested in making a change in gun control. She advocated for the Brady Act and joined a group of people advocating for stronger gun control. Overall, the attempt helped create conversation on much-needed gun control that would help lower crime rates and keep American citizens safe. Specifically, the Brady Act helped prevent over 470,000 felons and other excluded buyers from accessing guns as of 1999. However, the Brady Act provides an open loop for criminals to access guns. The loophole allowed criminals and other restricted persons to buy a gun at a gun show without a background check. In addition, gun transactions between non-licensed citizens do not require background checks, as their information is not in the government system. In some circumstances, gun providers will even give guns to ineligible buyers to make extra money and report the guns as stolen or missing to avoid trouble with the law. The loops criminals found in the Brady Act made the act insufficient in providing lasting change within gun laws. The Brady Act was also time-consuming for federal law officials to perform extensive background checks on all who applied. In 1997, the Supreme Court ruled the 5-day background checks as unconstitutional burdens placed on federal officials. The Brady Act's faults were primarily caused by bipartisan government in the 1990s, which resulted in the Columbine High School shooting of 1999. Bill Clinton proposed many bills and ideas, but they were overlooked by Congress and not created due to the bipartisan political environment. Bill Clinton had proposed the same 20% increase in staffing for the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms for years in a row, only for the action to be forgotten by Congress. President Clinton had made similar statements between his speech in April and his calling for the Brady Act in November 1999. Between these 7 months, little to nothing changed politically involving guns. Clinton pleaded to Congress in both speeches to help dispose of the gun show loophole. He advocated strongly for stricter gun laws during his campaign, yet the result of his effort was the Brady Law that was unable to make a lasting change. The National Rifle Association had a significant place in Congress regarding gun control. After the Morton-Grove Ordinance was implemented, the NRA launched a phone campaign designed to block the ordinance. Gregory Ustra voted against the ordinance in exchange for support in his mayor campaign. L. Volkmer of Missouri was strongly promoted by the NRA and was pushed to neutralize the Gun Control Act of 1968. The National Rifle Association obtained power and money in which they used to influence politics, making it even harder for Congress to change gun control.
Soon after the Columbine tragedy, Congress considered common sense gun legislation to require Brady background checks at the gun shows, child safety locks for new handguns, and a ban on the importation of large capacity ammunition clips. With courage and a tie-breaking vote for the Vice President, the Senate faced down the gun lobby, stood up to the American people, and passed this legislation. But the House failed to follow suit. Now, we have all seen what happens when guns fall into the wrong hands. Daniel Mauser was only 15 years old when he was gunned down at Columbine.
Because of the lack of change with gun laws in the United States, tragic events have subsequently happened, like the Columbine High School shooting in Littleton, Colorado. However, the tragic event of Columbine has been long forgotten, as numerous shootings have happened since. The Clinton administration's hunger for change was never satisfied, and today's Congress is still seeking the same gun reformations from 20 years ago. Tragedy sparks change, as the attempted assassination of Ronald Reagan sparked a new conversation on guns, yet the nation observes recurring tragedy involving firearms. The United States has seen the tragedy and how detrimental guns can be, but now it is time for the next generation to spark the change.